Hi there, this is Elise Benin, your marketing mentor. And this is the podcast for you if and only if you are ready to leave the feast or famine syndrome behind, and I mean for good. I remember my very first client very well. It was 1988, and he was an actor in New York City, and he needed someone to help him glue resumes, yes, glue resumes, on the back of his headshots and mail them to agents and casting directors at regional theaters. So that's what we did. And that's how I began to understand the kind of self-promotional help creative professionals needed. The rest is history for both me and him. And today's episode is the next in my Where Are They Now series, in which I am interviewing Ilo Orleans, my very first client. So listen and learn. Hello, Ilo. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Elise. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And this is part of my Where Are They Now series because you were my very first client ever in 1988. And you and I recently reconnected. So we'll talk about the history, but as with everyone I interview, I want you to start by giving us your elevator pitch. Tell us who you are and what you do briefly.
Briefly, well, I'm so honored actually to have been your very first client. And where am I now? I've served as a creative director and account executive at a creative agency up here in San Francisco. My main client was Google. It flew me all over the world to do a lot of business-to-business videos, business-to-consumer commercials. I've filmed for Google and Fox Sports. I'm a director. And I've directed commercials for everything from Macy's to Home Depot. But my real passion is directing narrative fiction film. That's short films or features. I love doing commercials. And then after decades and decades behind the camera, I am now finally jumping back in front of the camera and back on stage. I'm acting again. Top agency here in San Francisco. JE Talent reached out to me to represent me for commercials and voiceovers, and I'm working on a documentary short. I'm just doing projects that make me happy, and I love collaborating with people, and I love telling films for agencies and clients that have real value and long shelf lives, and are really meaningful to the people that I create them for.
Beautiful. But when you and I met in the late 80s, you were not doing this. You were an actor, right?
Correct. That's what I was.
So let's go back to that and just you tell your side of the story and then I'll tell mine. How about that? Where were you when we met, and whatever you remember of those fateful days, about what we did together, or how I helped you, or how it came to you that I could help you, because I think it was very organic, if I remember correctly.
It was very organic. We were working together at a company you were working for, and a friend of ours introduced us. I had graduated as an actor with a degree in acting and directing from Syracuse, and I came down to New York, and my passion was to go work in the regional theaters. Syracuse Stage had a big program, and I wanted to work at some of the biggies, the Guthrie and the Goodman, and Old Globe, big theaters. And so I needed help getting my pictures and resumes out to these regional theaters and also to agents and casting directors. Right away, I started working in the city. I worked on stage in New York and in commercials and soap operas, but I needed help promoting myself, and I knew enough to know that even though I had kind of cultivated the talent side at school, I hadn't really cultivated the business side. So when we met, I knew I needed some help, and we talked about could you help me? I think you helped me glue pictures to resumes. They were
Oh, yeah.
literally.
I remember that.
Do you remember
Lots
them?
of glue. There was a lot of glue
I think
involved.
it was spray glue. I think I got spray cans, and like we put all the photos face down, and then we sprayed the back of them, and then I printed out these resumes, and that's what we did back in the day before the digital, realm.
And I
And
remember actually one of the things I remember is the lists of people, right? The casting directors. I learned a lot about regional theaters from you. I didn't know what a regional theater was before I started helping you.
Mhm.
And I especially remember like the people part of it.
Right. That's exactly right. I was thinking about this because, reuniting with you, it's just a fantastic experience. I'm so glad to reconnect with you after such a long time because, one kind of looks back on one. I look back on my career and think, well, how did I get to where I am? Where am I? And how did I get here? And and I think, well, where did some of that promotion, or self promotion ideas come from? And I just wanted to share with you briefly that, my father was this pediatrician in New Jersey, and he came to this very small bedroom community, and he needed patients. And somebody told him to join a temple. I was raised Jewish. I don't practice Judaism anymore. I'm a Buddhist now. But at the time, my father, somebody said to him, join a temple and you can get a lot of patients. Young families are going to have babies and they're going to need a pediatrician. So he did that. He wasn't particularly religious, but he joined this temple. And then he'd get patients and he would tell them to join the temple. So it kind of worked both ways. He kind of got politically involved. And so, my mother was a teacher, and now I also teach in addition to being a producer and a director. And her twin brother, my uncle, was in New York as a real madman, like in the 1950s, 60s. He was kind of a climber. And
An ad agency type madman you're
yeah,
talking
he
about.
was. Yeah. Like the TV show, right? Literally, he was like 535 Madison Avenue across from the plaza and
Hmm.
at Central Park. And he had like social circles that were about, charity. He was very like I think he had a lot of internalized homophobia and internalized anti-Semitism. He really wanted to get away from who he was. So he kind of socialized with all these Upper East Side wasps, very like upper snobby people and his PR firm focused on travel and promoting travel in emerging countries that were just opening up to visitors in the 50s and 60s. And he took people out to lunches and dinners, and he joined museums and charities and organizations, and he grew this very successful business, Spencer and Rubino Limited. And there was no Spencer. He totally made up Spencer. He just thought it sounded better.
Marketing.
Marketing. He didn't want to go Rubino. So Rubino, there was no brothers, there was no sons. So he's Spencer and Rubino Limited. It sounded very upper snobby something. Anyway, but I learned a lot about marketing from both of them in that sense, or at least
Growing up, you're saying.
kind of like at least in terms of networking and the value of network.
Yeah, that's all networking.
It is. And I think, Elise, I think that there's a presumption that strategic networking is somehow suspect, or, calculated in a
Mm.
way that's like lacking integrity. But, I've always had a genuine love of people and two-way relationships. My friendships have always been a little bit romantic and my romances are always very friendly. And in business, I often think, what can I contribute? What can I offer to this other person? Not just what's in it for me. And
And actually, let me just stop you there because what you are articulating is one of the concepts I've developed over the years, which you have no idea about,
I
but you're
don't.
doing it, which is
Mhm.
generosity as a marketing tool.
Exactly what I would call karma,
Okay.
but in a very authentic, genuine
Hmm.
way, without any kind of design on or expectation of what I'm going to get back
Of
for it.
the outcome. Exactly.
Exactly. I mean, look, in Buddhism we say make good causes, don't try to fathom the effects.
Hmm.
You don't say, "Oh, I hope I want a car. I want a car." You don't like pray for a car. You just say, "What can I do that's good out there?" Oh, and then you just have gratitude for what comes your way. I mean, and these my early spiritual paths, with Shakti Gawain's creative visualization, all of that kind of visualizing
Mm-hmm.
something and dream books and dream boards. And Louise Hay wrote a lot of affirmation work about you can heal your life. And subsequently I was into a lot of other spiritual paths, but and again, in a very, I keep using the word genuine, but I mean it. And so I think that there was a lot of payoff in terms of marketing because
Mm-hmm.
I was really, and when I think about my uncle, I always remember him handing out business cards, and I've always had business cards to this day.
Mm-hmm.
Now they have QR codes on them.
Good.
But back in the day, I always, just kept giving out my
Mhm.
number, and you
And you
know,
didn't feel icky about it?
you know, I I, I just didn't. I didn't because I didn't feel like I was giving. This might sound egoic, I think, but I don't really think of it that way. I thought it was a gift.
Hmm. It is generosity as a marketing tool.
Well, yeah, I literally felt like, hey, here's me, get in touch. Not like, like I wouldn't give them to anybody, but when I so that was New York. That was in the 80s when we met. And
Uh-huh.
we started sending out those pictures and resumes to agents and casters and theaters. And I started getting results.
Yeah. Because marketing works when you do it.
Exactly. And and I can, and now that we're circling back after many decades, I'm going to have to tap you for your skills and expertise, and rehire you after
I
many.
would be happy to work with you
I'd
again,
be
Ilo.
because I don't think I've gotten lazy per se, but I've they come to me now. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I'm older than 50. And I've built up a reputation as a director and a producer for marketing videos with some of the world's leading brain surgeons at Stanford and some of the you know biggest leadership in tech at Yahoo or Oracle or Microsoft, or I've interviewed everybody over at Google. And so they come to me with work. That said, the kind of work I'm looking to do right now could use a little marketing,
Hmm.
actually, if I'm now in a position to kind of want to. But I think about where this all came from too. When we were working together in the 80s in New York, there was an organization, and I just looked it up in the New York Times archives, and it was called the Actors Information Project. And it was sort of Estian based. I don't know if you remember Est.
I
It
do.
was, do you? It was like the Forum and Est. It was kind of these psycho spirit, not even spiritual. They were just, I don't know, motivational organizations. I think they were a little cultish, frankly, or they had a
Hmm.
reputation as being cultish. I was never really in any of them. I didn't really do them, um, raw. But Actors Information Project, was founded by a bunch of I can't remember who they were, the organizers of it, but it was a nonprofit organization of actors that intended to help fellow actors with their careers. And it provided like fact sheets for actors on casting directors and communication networks. It was like 6 o'clock, 6:30 in the morning. You had to get up and go to Midtown. I remember it so vividly. Like it was part of the motivational aspect of it was, you know, get
Had to
up
get
and
up
do
early.
this,
Yeah.
But I think it was a real Kickstarter for my business, acumen, and it served me throughout my life. And I think that's where you and I connected
Hmm.
when we were going. And I think now I'm so pleased that because you have gone on to support thousands upon thousands of professionals with your work
Hmm.
and ultimately this brilliant podcast, that I'm truly honored I'm tickled and honored. And I said to my husband, I said, "Oh, I'm going to be interviewed on a marketing podcast." And he goes, "Oh, are you in marketing?" And I said, "Well, in a sense, we're all in marketing
That's right.
because I have this skill set as a director, and yet, I recently I went in house, to this boutique production company, creative agency up here in the Bay Area during the pandemic for 3 years because we really learned how to film remotely. I could direct crews remotely and
Mm-hmm.
interview people remotely as we are, but with cameras on them.
Mm-hmm.
And then, after the pandemic, I was ready to go back independent, but I kind of had to start from scratch. So I put my website together and I had to pull all of my films together, and both the branded work and the documentary work and the narrative fiction, and I had to put my director's reels together. And I think where I'm going to look to work with you, Elise, is how can I now engage an audience or the type of collaborators that to do the kind of work that I want to do. That projects that are either funded or halfway to being funded, or whether that's polished,
I have an
work.
idea, Ilo. I
Yeah,
have an
yeah.
idea.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just brainstorm a little bit and bring in the framework of the simplest marketing plan and apply it to you, because I was recently interviewed actually by someone who wanted to know about how I developed my coaching business. And I
Mm-hmm.
was remembering that she was very happy to hear that I had this framework of the simplest marketing plan. And she said, well, did you spend a lot of time developing the framework, and how long did it take you? And I was like, no, actually, even though I've been doing this for more than 35 years, when I look back at what I did early on, I'm still doing the same things. I just had never named them. I never gave them the labels. I never codified it until the last 5 years or so. But
Mm-hmm.
the tools are essentially the same, even though a lot of the technology has changed. And so, as you were talking, I was thinking, well, you were talking a lot about networking, what you saw your family members doing with networking, whether it was at the temple or on the Upper East Side or at the plaza or wherever, right? There was a lot of networking, and you're a people person and you love networking. So there's that. And it was very strategic, which is the way I teach it. And then the second tool is targeted outreach, direct outreach. And as you were talking, I was thinking, well, that's what we were doing with the mailings. I mean, very few people do actual snail mailings these days, but the people I work with who do, it's super effective because no one else is doing it. So this
Mm.
idea of gluing the resumes on the back of the pictures, and I remember creating the labels and all
Oh,
of that,
right.
right? Keeping the database for you.
Oh, right.
So that was all direct outreach. So that's tool
Yes.
number 2 that I've been doing for more than 35 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third tool, so this is kind of interesting because the third tool is content marketing, which is where you create content. You know all about creating content,
Mm-hmm.
but you haven't done it for yourself. That's the thing that I want to brainstorm a little bit.
Oh, how interesting.
Right? And content, I make a distinction between marketing content and content marketing.
Hmm.
Marketing content is what is on your website. It's what you say about yourself and where you've been and what you can do for people and the services that you offer and blah, blah, blah. That's all marketing content.
Hmm.
Content marketing is where you share ideas that are relevant to your people. And it could be tips, and it could be a podcast, because this podcast is one of my content marketing tools where I'm not talking about me and what I do. I'm sharing what I know. Right?
Hmm.
That's the content.
Wow. I
And
love that.
right. And so the whole idea behind the simplest marketing plan framework is that when you use these 3 tools together on a market, so you meet them at a networking event or you meet them online somewhere and you connect with them, you begin a relationship, or you reach out to them and say, oh my God, I love what you're doing. I'd really love to be involved. I really think I can help you. And you begin a relationship with those 2 tools. And then you use content marketing to stay in touch over time, because timing is everything when it comes to marketing, and you need to be there in their moment of need. And that's the whole point of the content marketing. And
Wow.
one thing I've said recently, because people seem to need to hear it, which is that content marketing, like, I don't care if people read my quick tips newsletter. You can delete it the minute it hits your inbox. I just want that little piece of mental real estate, my name, my weird name, coming into your inbox and into your brain once every 2 weeks, so that you know you can count on me. I will be there. You will hear from me. And when you're ready, I am here.
Wow. Wow, that's so impressive. You and your weird name, and me and my weird name.
Exactly.
You know, I love that mental real estate. I really got that. It's so valuable, and a bunch of things popped into my mind on what I could create for content marketing. I
Tell
see
me.
somebody, I meet somebody, and I think, oh, you need a video.
Mhm.
You need a 30-second video. Oh, I want to do a 20-minute. Nobody wants to watch a 20-minute video. You need a video that's under 3 minutes. You need to be interviewed. I need to film you with a little B-roll around you. We should do this outside because it's great, natural light, and it's contextual to your product or something that you want to promote, or in terms of tips, my skill set, is it okay that we kind of segue onto other
Yeah,
things too?
that's exactly what I wanted to do.
Well, I love this. I just love it because, you really inspired me. After I became an actor and started working, I was, flown to LA and to meet the sister agency of my New York agents. And I started working in TV and commercials a lot. And then, to kind of cut to the chase, I eventually got behind the camera and started to direct for the camera. And over time, optioned the film rights on a novel and attached, a lot of big Academy Award winning names. I raised a couple $100,000, didn't quite raise the million to make this film, but a lot of that was about networking. Where I ultimately landed when I left LA and moved up north was, I thought, oh, there goes my film career. But right away, I was hired to direct a short film which premiered at the Santa Barbara International Film Festival, and that director of photography introduced me to a little agency that was their client was Google. And once I started telling marketing videos and learning how to, and I also interviewed, I was also hired to interview over 90 female scientists for the National Science Foundation,
Mm.
some of them Nobel Prize winning scientists on the earth sciences. And I learned how to, kind of cut my teeth as a documentary filmmaker, but it was very applicable to these marketing videos. And so when I think about content marketing, things that one of my primary expertise has become making C-level executives feel comfortable on camera
Hmm.
and to elicit the kind of, not just sound bites, because that's kind of a very pedantic way to, think, you're eliciting responses from people or putting words in their mouth. And that's not what I do. I do what you do, except there's cameras on them, and so when one has a genuine connection, then and truly likes people, they feel comfortable. And when
Hmm.
people are comfortable, they can do their best work. I always say, as a director, my job is to make everyone on the set feel safe so they can do their best work. I hire well, whether that's department heads or talent. And in terms of clients, and you know, the idea for me, in terms of content marketing, would be to just like a little tip, like, hey, don't wear solid black, don't wear, solid white, don't wear logos, and don't wear plaids. Layers look great when you're on camera. Like,
Hmm.
that's the kind of tidbit
Yeah.
you were talking about. I could put out in a, you know, I don't know, it's a monthly or weekly email connection or a contact, or I don't know, people still are blogging, but I always heard with a website, someone should be, writing some kind of blog along your
Hmm.
website that comes out, once. I think it's good for the algorithm or something like that,
Hmm.
in terms of,
I'm still blogging,
you are
Ilo.
okay. Well, there
Hmm.
it is. Well, and look at your success. I mean, you're tremendously successful, and as you know, it's not easy to stay motivated to keep, unless you have a passion for it. I think as I get older, and successful enough that I don't kind of, like, quote unquote, need to market because the work's coming to me. I also
But it's
feel like,
not the work you want. That's the
but
part. That's the problem.
you got it. You got it, Elise. That's not the, it's not that it's not the work that I want. If somebody wants to fly me to North Carolina to interview executives at G&E about the values of, their self-cleaning dishwasher, I am thrilled to go do that. It pays very well. Plus I'm genuinely interested. These people are very excited about the value that the cloud is bringing to, their
Dishwasher.
technology, and what AI is doing in the tech world. I mean, they're passionate about it. So if they're passionate about it, I'm passionate about it. But now, what I really want to do is, oh, how classic to say what I really want to do is direct. I do direct. That's what I am, a director. But what I'd like to be directing more of would be narrative fiction, film, storytelling, features, short films, television. I don't know. Should we get together with some glue? And and
Definitely.
I can send out, I don't, what am I sending out? Hard copies. I'm not sending out flash drives or CDs, but I can see how an email would get very lost in the
Right.
shuffle, you know?
All right. We're going to have to wrap up, but I want to
That
go back
sucks.
to one thing that you said, because sometimes I channel my listeners and like push back on something with them in mind. So you gave what I thought was a really good, simple idea for your own content marketing. Here's what to wear and what not to wear when you're going behind the camera.
Going in
And
front of the camera.
I'm sorry, in front of the camera.
Yep.
And when some of the people that I work with come up with an idea like that, what immediately follows is, oh no, other people have already said that, or oh, I don't know enough to say that, or who wants to hear that from me? So it sounds like you don't have those voices that immediately kind of clamp down on your content ideas, do you? Or maybe you're just really good at ignoring them.
No, I don't have those concerns. I've been a practicing Buddhist for 20 years. I
Mm-hmm.
honestly, live in the moment. I do not, the past is over so quickly for me that I don't regret anything. Plus, I'm going to take a turn, a what am I taking? A page from your book, which is, you just want, what did you say? The mental real estate. You just want,
Mm-hmm.
what's the difference if the person is, if they've seen it before? Who cares if
Exactly.
they delete your email? They've seen
Who
your name.
cares?
You said what I'm really trying to tell them is I'm here for you. I'm reliable. I'm not, I don't email every week. So I'm not so, over the
Yeah.
top,
Once
but
a
boy,
month
oh
is
boy,
enough.
once a month. Right. So in a certain sense, what's the difference with the, not what's the difference with it? You want it
No,
to
who
be
cares? Who
substance.
cares?
You want it to be something. You can't be,
Yeah.
it's so funny because my brother's a magician, Danny
Hmm.
Orleans. He is one of the world's 100 top magicians. He loves marketing. He's all on LinkedIn. He puts something up on LinkedIn once a week, just to make sure
Mm-hmm.
that people are in there. He said my other brother's in is markets for the state of Vermont. He has something called professional postering and distribution. He used to put up posters all over
Mm-hmm.
the place, all over Burlington. He came up with the idea. Do you know those little maps of towns? And then, it's like a little cartoon drawing of a map of a town, and then they'd sell ad space around like
Mm-hmm.
a placemat. He kind of
Mm-hmm.
came up with that in
Mm-hmm.
Vermont and many years ago. And so, and as that world has changed, the paper world, especially with the pandemic, has changed. People kind of say, well, what am I going to do digitally? But I love your idea, Elise, of like, what can you go back to cut through the noise and
Mm-hmm.
send them? But to answer your question, no, I don't to me there's no value in entertaining fear-based thoughts when you have the choice to either entertain positive thoughts that are going to, the law of attraction works in a very particular way. It works when you feel good. So,
Mm-hmm.
I understand vibrations, vibrational vortex. This is the whole idea of creating, manifesting reality, and, have that precede physical reality, which I don't mean to sound too, esoteric or, woo
You
woo
do
about the
live
whole
in
thing.
California, though.
I do live in California. I am a Taurus with a Cancer moon and a Cancer rising. So watch out.
All right, we're gonna put the bookmark there, Ilo.
That
But I
sounds
want
good.
to.
Did I get to share my? I didn't. I don't think I shared my website.
No, no, I'm about to ask you to do
Oh, you
that.
are.
So
Oh, you are.
yes.
But I don't have to do an elevator pitch again, right? I did the
No,
elevator.
you don't. No,
Okay, good. Okay, good.
no, just tell the people where they can find you.
ILOFILMS.com. ILO Films. Please come check out my website and my work at ilofilms.com.
And they can probably find you on LinkedIn as well, right?
Absolutely. I'm on LinkedIn. Absolutely. Feel free to reach out. I'd be thrilled. I'm looking for collaborators. I'm looking to tell your stories on film and video.
Awesome. Ilo Orleans. I'll bet you're the only Ilo on LinkedIn. What do you think?
Maybe ILO and then Orleans, like New Orleans, ORLEANS.
Awesome. So good to reconnect with you,
Wow.
Ilo.
Really, really good. You made my day. You have no idea. It's just a thrill. And we talked about maybe there'd be an opportunity for me to interview you. I'd be so thrilled to do that. Has anyone done that yet
Absolutely.
with you?
I don't think so. Well, I mean, other people have interviewed me, but not like you would.
Okay. And not for your podcast.
That's right. No, let's do it.
Let's
Okay.
do
As soon
that.
as we say goodbye, we're going to schedule a date to do that.
I love it. I can't wait.
Awesome.
Thank you again. I really, really appreciate it. And I'm grateful for anyone who's listened to this and gotten anything out of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ilo. I do hope you found that as interesting as I did. I am going to help Ilo again, and I know that will be a blast. That's one of the things about being in business this long, and maybe also about being alive this long. People come back around, and you can do so much better for and with them. I can't wait. Anyway, if you want my help finding clients or reaching your goals, I'd be happy to help. Check out my new one-on-one AI client finding coaching calls. There's a link on my homepage. Or if you haven't already, I hope you'll sign up for my quick tips at marketing-mentor.com. Once you're on the site, you'll find lots more resources, including my simplest marketing plan. So enjoy, and I'll see you next time.